Sin-seer, what up?
What's up, my guy? How you feeling?
I'm right here, baby. What's up? How you feeling?
I see you worked out all the kinks.
Yeah, everything went well. You
Pretty
know what I mean?
simple.
Yeah, everything was simple. Listen, this is the first live I do, first interview I do in about, man, many years.
I appreciate
So
the opportunity.
you the guy. You're the
I
guy.
appreciate that. I
Yep,
appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
definitely.
So we're gonna get into a little history lesson. We're gonna take it all the way back and then work our way up to what you currently have going on. A lot of people have been DMing me. The comments have been crazy. So I'm looking forward to this one as one of the top interviews I do. So for those who may not know, may be new to you, may have forgotten, can you take us back to where you were born and raised?
All right. I was born in the Bronx, New York, South Bronx, Soundview section of the Bronx. And I was raised there. Where I was born is where I was raised.
No doubt. Can you take us back to a day in the life of Chadio in the Bronx as a teenager growing up?
Well, as a teen growing up, my era was a little rough. You know what I mean? There was a lot going on. It was the crack era. So, things were, a little spooky back then. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
You were going through a lot of hardships, seeing people take these falls around you, be it prison or death and stuff like that. And, so you just try to navigate around it. But what helped me, was hip hop. It kept me I had one foot in the street and it was easy for me to slip on that banana peel and go that route. But hip hop kept my other foot on the other side and eventually pulled me to that side. You know what I mean?
Right. Uh, any obstacles that you can name growing up before you got into music? Any obstacles you had to face growing up in the BX?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a rough town. You know what I mean? Historically rough. A lot of people know, especially the southern section where I'm from. So, like I said, now you see it everywhere. The normal societal ills in the hood. You know what I mean? You have poverty, and what comes with that is the crime and those elements that were around me. I saw a lot around me. Probably saw things as a youngster that I shouldn't have seen. You know what I mean? So it
Right.
makes you it kind of educates you quick and you grow up fast, as they say. You know what I mean?
Right. Before getting into music, who were some of the musical influences Chadio was listening to earlier on?
Oh man, you know what? As a kid, right? When I was young, I would listen to New Birth. Um, my favorite is Earth, Wind and Fire. I remember my brother coming home. Have an older brother. He's like 6 years older than me. So I learned a lot from him, just observing him and going through his stuff, being nosy and going through his stuff. So I remember him coming home with the All in All album, Earth, Wind and Fire. Classic, right? So I fell in love with it and I would play it on and on and on, right? But he got mad at me one time because that was the record I first started scratching with. Because, I'm sure you're going to ask me later, but I started DJing before I was MCing, but we'll get into that. You know what I mean? And that record I first started scratching on this old phonograph that my mom's had, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize as I was practicing these cuts, I was destroying the other side of the record. So when you picked it up, it was all destroyed on the other side. So I got in trouble. But yeah, New Birth, Earth, Wind and Fire. He used to listen to the OJs, the Manhattans. He put me up on them. Just real R&B and soul. That's what we was listening to in the household. And because where I grew up at is a predominantly black neighborhood. You know what I mean? So I was exposed to a lot of the culture. And my best friend, is a black brother named Ken Du, and just my whole it feels it's I always say I had a weird upbringing because I'm Puerto Rican. They would call me Puerto Rican. That's what I am. My mother and my father. But my father wasn't in the household. It was my mom's. So there wasn't really, you know, there was Puerto Rican culture in the household. Like you hear some of the salsa music and stuff like that. But really, my thing was black culture. That's what I was. I gravitated to that. That was one of my people. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
how I grew up. It's you know, it's different.
Right. Take us back to what you've seen firsthand as far as music in your neighborhood in the BX. Was it the parks, jams, concerts? Take us back to firsthand Chadio coming out in the streets, getting entertained by the music.
It was park jams. I'll tell you, because where I'm at, I live in Lafayette houses, right? And the section I'm in the Bronx, there's a lot of projects within like a 1 square mile radius. You have Soundview projects, Monroe projects. You got Classen Point houses, Sackburn houses, Bronxdale, which is very famous. You hear the Wu-Tang talk about Bronxdale a lot of times. They came and they got their garden lessons there, and they, you know, were exposed to hip hop there. I heard the Jizza talking about it one time. And then Bronx River, where, you know, you have the Zulu Nation, Bambaataa, and them cats, you know, who some consider the godfather of this, you know what I mean? So I was surrounded, just think about it. I'm right here, and I'm surrounded by all of that. And everybody's visiting everybody's hood. We're so close together that if Soundview Park had a jam, I could hear it from my window. You know what I mean? But we had our own jams as well. So each project I named, everybody had their own official DJ coming out. You know, we had my man, Little Gil. Shout out to my man, you know, Little Gil. You know, he's from my building. He's part of the Universal Hip Hop Museum, which they're putting up too in the Bronx.
Right.
And a major part of that. And he came out. I remember, man, I think Gil, man, he could correct me if I'm wrong, but he was young. He must have been 14 years old. Nobody knew he was cutting the way he was cutting. He came out one time and he set up right in the grass, and we put the plug in Miss Martin's window. She lived in 1K, right on the first floor. So she allowed us to throw the plug in there. So they plugged up and took the juice from her, and Little Gil just did a set, you know, spinning under his legs. You know, everybody went crazy. Rest was history. Everybody wanted Gil out every day now. They wanted to bring the set out every day. But what he would do, he wouldn't bring the set out every day, of course, but he lived on the top floor. And our buildings are tall buildings. They're 19 stories. So he lived on the 19th floor, and he would be spinning and cutting and blasting that music, and we would be in the park enjoying it as if he was right there. You know what I mean? So right. I remember the park jams at night. I'm on Morrison. The 2 buildings behind me are Boynton. They used to throw their park jams. And when I was young, I used to listen through the window. My brother would go down, and, you know, I'd have all the lights off in the room, and I'd crack the window so my moms don't hear me, and I'd be listening in the window, you know, just getting that vibe. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very dope. Take us back to how you got involved. Before MCing, you say there was DJing. I'm sure there was breakdancing and graffiti. But
yeah.
For you personally, what was the first element that you entertained?
You know what? I'd have to say it was graffiti, because the first thing you start doing is you grab paper, you start doodling. You know what I mean? You start writing your tag. Everybody wants to get a nickname and write it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't hardcore graffiti because it's the beginning. You know, you just messing around. So definitely that was the first thing you kind of mess with. Plus, my brother was a graffiti writer. So I remember, I'll tell you a story. One time I was young, and I was laying down and I was sleeping, and then I hear this noise in the room because we shared the bedroom. We slept in the same bedroom. So I'm hearing this noise, and when I wake up, my brother's rummaging through the closet, and this dude pulls out a whole black hefty bag. So, you know, now I'm like, yo, what you doing? And he's like, you know what I mean? And you hear the cans, clink, 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 clink. So I jump off the bed, and I'm nosy. I look in, and he's just got a bunch of spray paint cans, and he's leaving in the middle of the night to go bombing. But see, he was bombing the trains. At that time, they were bombing the trains in New York City. So he would go to the yards and bomb the trains with his homies. And so I was exposed to that. You see the exposure, right? So what do I want to do now? I want to write. So, you know, one time I found he had a pilot marker, but he used to flood it with ink. So it was so flooded, he would wrap it in, like, you know, a cloth, like the cloth you use in the kitchen maybe. He'll wrap it in that type of cloth, and then unwrap it to write it. I saw him do it in the staircase, so I grabbed that. That was my first time ever writing on a wall outside. I did it in my staircase, because my staircase during those times was bombed everywhere. So I'm going up and down from the 19th floor down, and I used to write Stash. That was my first name, Stash. You know what I mean? But I ended up writing graffiti, though. It became a big part of my life. I'm a part of that graffiti core. And I used to write Chad, and we used to go all city bombing heavy. I wrote a few times with Master Ace. We went bombing together and, stuff like that. So, it became a big part of me, but it was first graffiti, but then I jumped into DJing. Before I went on that mission of graffiti, that big one where I, really was going in hard all over the city, it was DJing. I was doodling, I told you my brother's story, just messing around, but really the DJing is what grabbed me. Then the graffiti while I was MCing. So you picture that. I know it's not, I know you want it to be like boom, 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 but it didn't really quite work out that way. Breakdancing was always there, but that kind of faded out. You know what I mean? For me, at least, and for the people where I was at. It was a big part for us, but then you move on to other things and, you fall in love with things, and I fell in love with MCing, that, at the end of the day.
Right. How far did DJ take you before you started to transition into being an MC?
Well, I used to go to my man's house because I didn't have equipment. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have, I grew up, I didn't have, much of the things, needed to do these things. But, like I said, I used to go on my mother's old phonograph and, I would try to find ways to do things. And my man had equipment. When I was, I think I was like 15 years old, I found him and he said he had equipment, DJ equipment. So I went over there and I started getting with him. And we used to do like local parties. We threw local parties in the Bronx and stuff like that. It didn't become big, but we would do local parties and stuff, Stardust, Ballroom, go here and there. And, it was a part of us. But I started writing at that a little bit later, maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 years later, something like that. I really started writing. I used to write a little bit, but I started really like, filling up marble notebooks type writing.
Right.
And I'll, tell you what happened with that in a little while.
Yeah. Give us a timeline of transitioning from a DJ to a MC and starting to take that craft more serious.
I started to take that craft more serious, I say, when about 17, 18 years old. There was like some tragedies that occurred. I lost my homie got murdered. My other homie got murdered. And, I started to really express myself via my pen. You know what I mean? I started to really, really pour my heart out on the pages now. So my rhymes were becoming not only more aggressive, but I was putting more focus on them. You know what I mean? Like I really wanted to do this. It wasn't just playing around anymore. it was an outlet for me. You know what I mean? So about that time is when I started taking it serious, but nobody knew. It was something I was doing on my own in my crib.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, are you pursuing being a solo artist, or earlier before the crew, were you in any groups?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I started taking it serious, right? And I was writing, and originally, me and Yogi grew up together, and Mighty Hard. We grew up in the same, my building's here, their building's right next to me. So Yogi was doing the music. He was doing the music thing first. And he wanted me originally to be his DJ. If you hear like old tapes of us, like real old tapes, he'll refer to me as my DJ, Chadio, and you'll hear that and it might bug out, but that's how it was in the beginning, way in the beginning, before we were Crew. We were, we didn't even have a name actually, in the beginning. And one day I recall being in the park where we live at, and I don't know if it's a little vague. I don't know if he caught wind of the fact that I was rhyming and somebody told him, but at the time I was rhyming in the park. It might have been that he heard me, but I know that he stepped to me afterwards and was like, yo, like, what's up? You want to MC instead? You know what I mean? Like, we could do that. And I was like, all right, bet. So that was the beginning. That was it. That was the genesis. Then we would go in the studio and we would start recording as a group, me and him as the co-lyricist, you know what I mean?
Okay, we'll get to Mighty High in a moment. How far did you and Yogi get as a duo?
Well, really, we got far, but Har was always a part of us. Yog had this vision of Har being this caricature, which kind of is. You know what I mean? Har's an eccentric individual, so he always wanted the emphasis on Har because Har was just unpredictable, eccentric. He was like his own caricature, like. So Har was always a part of us. He just wasn't around a lot. You know what I mean? Har would get incarcerated and things of that nature. So that's why a lot of people will associate just me and Yogi as Cru, but really and truly it's Chadio, Yogi, and Mighty Har.
Okay.
But he just wasn't around a lot, you know what I mean? So it was me and Yogi, holding it down when he wasn't.
Right. Before signing your deal, can you take us back to some of the dues you guys paid earlier on to get your name out there?
Oh, man. I mean, it was really a local thing. It wasn't really like paying dues and running around and trying to rhyme in front of other known MCs or nothing like that. Because this was in our blood. Like, it was our culture. It still is. It's my culture. So it's something that we did without thinking. It was a part of us. You know what I mean? So when I wrote Graffiti, it wasn't nothing special. It was something that this is what we do. You know what I mean? This is where I'm from. DJing, MCing. So it was a little different growing up in the Bronx as to oppose maybe people later on from other states and other countries. You know what I mean? It's a little different for them because they didn't grow up, around its beginnings from when it was birthed, which is cool. You know what I mean? But it's just a little different as far as this is my life. It's like nothing special. So I didn't try to go out there and prove nothing to nobody. I just was doing what was in my blood. You know what I mean? So you would do local stuff, rhyme wherever. You don't care. Go in ciphers. I would go to other blocks, go in ciphers and rhyme with people in other blocks around the city, stuff like that.
What kind of discussions did you guys have earlier on as far as the direction you wanted to group to go?
Well, it was funny because, like I said, we wanted Har to be a main piece, but, that started, becoming difficult, you know what I mean? Because he wasn't around, stuff like that I was referring to earlier. So it kind of evolved. It wasn't like we really discussed it. It evolved into what it was because we just loved to do beats and rhyme. That was our main objective, was beats and rhymes. So we would, for example, Yo would drive in the car, throwing a beat tape, and we would just rhyme for hours, just driving nowhere, just driving around the city of New York, just rhyming. Listen to Bobito and stretching them and, just get that vibe, and rhyme. It's what we did, you know what I mean?
Right.
It evolved into Cru, but before Cru, we were Rhythm Blunt Cru. That was our name, Rhythm Blunt Cru. And, when I wrote Graffiti, my graffiti writing coincided with us doing demos, getting signed to a demo deal and stuff like that with Baby Chris and all that. So actually, while we was doing the real violator stuff, I was doing the graffiti thing. You know what I mean? So everything coincided together, and we just did what we did.
Take us back to the demo and meeting Chris Lighty. How did this all come about?
Chris, man, rest in peace. That's my guy. Chris is my guy. As you can see, I put that up on purpose.
Absolutely.
Thank Chris. You know what I mean? I got a lot of love for Chris, his brother Dave, all of them. I got nothing but good things to say about them. So it's funny because, Yog and me, we were discussing, who we gonna step to, because we did our own pre-demo. We had a tape, and we had, I don't know, we must have had like seven joints on there already of us, our own stuff. And this is way back, early 90s. You know what I mean? So, what we gonna do? So we got to step to somebody. We got to get to somebody. I forgot what club it was, man. Forgive me for that. Maybe Yo might remember. Somebody else might remember. But Chris Lighty was online at a club, and I guess he was, getting ready to go in because he didn't really have to wait online, but he was doing, doing this, and we jumped out the whip, ran up on him, and gave him the tape. Real, just like that. Hey, yo, you gonna want to listen to that? Trust me, that's fire, right? So we told him it was dope. Yo, that's dope. Listen to that, whatever. He's looking at us, whatever. We put our phone number on it. Honestly, You just give it. You don't think they're gonna call back. Call back. He called and was like, "Yo, I want to meet with y'all." We met with Chris. He put in. He wanted us to do more songs, so he put in like I think a budget of 5,000 or something, and said, "Yo, just do as much as you can. Eat if you need to eat there. You know, don't worry about that, and just do what you need to do." So we did like another. Man, we must have did another 9 songs. And then he saw that it was real, like, okay, they bringing a lot of content, and I'm liking it. And he really liked our vibe because it was different. You know, it wasn't that normal. You know, it was a little different. You know,
Right.
so that was it. The rest was history. We signed with him.
Take us back to that handoff. Give us a year when that handoff was.
Oh, that. Don't quote me on this, but it's early 90s. I know that. I don't know if for some reason I keep thinking 93, 90, maybe 93. I'm not sure. 94. I'm not sure, but it was early 90s. And another thing I left out is Chris is from the Bronx and we from the Bronx. So we had a special affinity for him in that aspect. And we really wanted to get our joint to him, even though there was others on the list. We really wanted to rock with him, being that he was a hometown guy. So right. I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, it was like early 90s around there. Our stuff was all early to mid 90s, the demos era. You know what I mean?
Right. We're going to pause on you guys meeting with Chris. I want to talk about that logo and shortening the name up. What kind of discussions did you guys have to shorten the name up, and where did that concept for the logo come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, our name was Rhythm Blunt Crew. So I used to do graffiti and write RBC. You know, I was, you know, writing it around the city. So then we came to Chris, like, yo, this is our name. And I had my man, he's a graffiti artist, one of the legends. His name is Louis 167, right? So he drew me a logo, and it was Rhythm Blunt Crew. And he had these 2 lips with like a blunt, and the smoke coming up from the blunt was music signs. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was dope. So we open. We bring it to Chris, yo, Rhythm Blunt Crew, and look, you know what I'm saying? You know, we smoking the music of signs, Look, he was like, nah. He was like, what you mean, nah? He was like, can't do that, man. He said, you got to be smart. He said, when you market yourself, you know, rhythm. What's a blunt? It's drugs. You know what I mean? You smoking marijuana. Some people might get turned off by that, just by that word blunt. You got the blunt as the logo, the smoke. He said, yo, thanks. So, you know, he was actually putting us on to the business aspect of it. Like, oh shit, we're not thinking like that. You know, we just want to rock out. We were like, damn. So we came to an agreement to just knock off the rhythm blunt and just crew. So it was like, all right, crew, and we developed an acronym for it. You know, a lot of people don't know it was Creative Rhythms Universal. And, you know, it was probably the first time people heard that. And that's what we did. We ran with crew. And so we get the name. Now logo, right? We need a logo. So we were violating Def Jam, you know, and Def Jam had their own, I think they were called a drawing board. These cats that used to do the album covers and, you know, posters and stuff like that. They were dope. But Yog was like, he told Chris, he said, yo, I'm gonna, you know, let Chadio live with that and rock with that and see what he come up with. So, you know, I was the one, you know, instrumental in the logo. I came up with that idea, and, you know, it became one of the, you know, one of those iconic logos from what I hear. Like I read comments and I hear people the way they talk about it. You know what I mean? So it was cool. It worked out.
Very dope.